Alrighty. Good day, good morning, and good evening, wherever you are viewing or listening in today in this world. My name's Craig Whitney. I am the founder of Next Level Coaching and the Legacy Forge podcast, where identity, embodiment, and purpose meet. Today, I'm absolutely honored to speak with my second international guest, Dr. Joe Vertino, spiritual leader, Reiki master, and Zen Buddhist, and a wise
Yes.
teacher of wisdom. We'll dive in
Yes.
how spirit, energy, and identity feed leadership. Introduce yourself, Joe.
Yes. I'm so excited to be here. Hi, everybody. Dr. Joe Vertino here. I say that if I was at a luncheon, like a kind of event, the main thing to stick on my name tag would be spiritual guide, because I have so many different kind of facets that I'm so proud of my skills. Also being an author, a musician, and a Reiki master healer. But yeah, spiritual guide is my main title. So I'm so excited to be here. I hope you can hang out for the whole thing and you won't regret it. It's going to be lovely, educational, and inspiring, I would say, I think are good adjectives.
Absolutely. And just quickly, guys, like and subscribe on all the major platforms, Apple and Spotify, and also YouTube, Legacy Forge podcast for the video. Briefly, just tell me what is your teaching about? What actually you do?
Yeah, absolutely. What is my teaching about? In this kind of way, I guess what's immediately coming to mind for me is not so much separating myself from other people or in particular other teachers, right? And then so in that kind of way, because that's something that can naturally happen when someone hears this question, right? What is it that's only mine? And we're on the air and it's all about me. It's actually the opposite, because the way that truth works is that you have a lineage of all of these teachers throughout time and space that are all belonging and beholden to that capital T truth. So really, in that kind of way, I have to start with that. To go into specifically to give an actual practical answer to that, right? What would that be? So, healing is my greatest joy. So, in that way, keying into me personally, I guess that's a good start. And that's a particular flavor of life, I guess we could say. Um, that you don't always have spiritual teachers, positive influencers that would say that, healing is my greatest joy, right? They might not, look down on it, but that's a pretty up there thing to say. So in that kind of way, that influences, kind of trickles into all of my being, all of my work, all of my, my words and everything. And basically in that way, God connected me to Reiki, consciously. And also naturally we have talents that are kind of dormant, as we're kids and growing up, and you start to have experiences that reveal more of your truth, not everybody's truth, but your truth. So in that kind of way, I noticed when I was growing up, I took relationships very, very seriously. So that's one of the answer maybe to that question. In that kind of way, guidance on relationships and having a uh, general foundational understanding of things like that. And relationships aren't going anywhere, they're sticking around. So I hope that makes you feel a lot more comfortable. And of course, I'm looking for work, I'm here, I got my website and everything like that, and books, and you can reach out, right away or next week, write a note later or whatever. But yeah, so in that kind of way, that's at least some of the answer on that. And then basically, practical life advice are the three words I use to describe my work. In the sense that God also gave me the gift of kind of a general, um, you know, beneficence, to use a beautiful, my vocab, beneficence, in the sense that there are certain people like myself that have a way that they are good for everybody and bad for nobody. Even though you might be able to tell so far, that I am pretty fiery and authentic and passionate. And sometimes we think people like that can't pull that off, can they? Well, I feel that I am that way, and being good for everybody and bad for nobody. What does that mean? It means someone who is super passionate and clear on their passion, their dharma, which is the Buddhist word for purpose, and that in that, I don't have anything in me that's trying to convince someone to be different, right? And in that kind of way, but that the truth is there, and that my job is just that. And then in that, obviously maintaining a foundation of respect, and then basically, this people get helped. People get helped in that way. Yeah. So there's a lot of words on that, and I feel as a writer that's actually something of more of a point of writing that could go on for a while, I guess. But there you go. At least we got something going on about Dr. Joe Vertino for you
Yeah,
here.
exactly. Beautiful explanation on what you do. So, how did your journey start? Where was the beginning point?
My journey. Oh, okay. Yes. So the answer I usually give for this is in my personal life. Growing up as a child, I had an absolutely wonderful childhood. And as a child, I was very observant, and I would notice that I would have that habit that I would just put myself kind of on the carpet for a while or on the stool, and I would just observe, and there was a natural contentment uh that was present. And also now as an adult, and particularly as a Buddhist, I noticed there wasn't something we call clinging and aversion. uh and so in that kind of way, remind me of the question. What was the you said what Where did I start? What the question was?
How did your journey begin?
How did it begin?
Where
So there you go. There's the beginning, so to speak, after me being born out of my wonderful mother. But basically in that kind of way, God kind of, put his hand on my head and didn't really ever remove it. And then basically I became a spiritual teacher, by listening to the universe, by listening to God. And then I got into Reiki and spiritual guidance, did research and development, watched, a bunch of spiritual teachers when I came of age on YouTube, Adyashanti, Muji, Gangaji, Papaji, and very much, being raised in Christian schools and being open to Jesus, not something foreign to me at all. And then I saw a statue of Lord Buddha, and that hit me in the spiritual heart. So that's the only, I think maybe in that kind of way that resonated in there in a very real way. And so then I basically followed that excitement and got into being a Buddhist, being a Zen Buddhist. And I also consider myself a follower of Christ. So I would say in that way, my journey was basically that I have a strong personality and a connection to, I mean, I guess you could say everything, everyone, the divine, that was there from when I was a child, when I would sit and I would just observe and be in that place of contentment, and connection, so to speak. And then that, that's when I was a child. That's not something that could be faked, right? So that's kind of there. And then I like I said, my path was of listening to the universe, taking one step at a time. And you just do that. And then eventually you start to get to a place where you find what works for you and you alone, and then that's actual life. I know sometimes we struggle. What's real? What's real in this world, right? Well, that's what's real, no matter what. That thing I just said, where you find something that's only about you. And how do you find that? Well, it's not another person, right? They go away. They have different beliefs. We can't control them and do anything about them. What it is, I'll give you the quick answer without, kind of blobbing on here. It's purpose, your dharma. That's how you do that. And I recently literally just made a TikTok video on that exact topic, for 10 minutes or so, and just me on camera. Can't miss me. You can hear me loud and clear. So there you go. But yeah, so yeah, and then basically, I got myself a laptop and started writing. And as someone who's very observant, that's a great combination. You got a vocab, you got the ability to type it out, and you are observant. So that equals pretty good books. And Yeah, I have 4 of them that are done and 3 more on the way. The first one is printed, available on my site and on Amazon. That one's called My Own Religion, The Power of Love, and it's a manifesto. And then I have the Reform of the Education System, hopefully getting printed next. The Nothingness of Love, a Buddhist book of poetry, and the Reiki Bible, a guide to Reiki living. And then I have another one on saints that will come out probably in a couple of years or something. And then a one called My Work in Business as a Spiritual Guide. So there you go. There's my answer on that one. Thank you for that question.
Are they self-published books, or are you sponsored by a publisher, or?
I have a local publisher in Buffalo, New York right now. A
Okay,
wonderful
cool.
guy named who's been working with me, who basically recognized my talent and gave
Well
me
done.
a deal, on being a local author and publishing the book stuff. But yeah, and I am connected to Ingram, the big international distributor. So
Oh,
that's
yeah.
yeah. I'm definitely out there for people. It's
Very cool.
seeking new stuff. Yeah.
Very cool. We'll have all the stuff in the links in the show notes for
Yay.
all the listeners to go and check it out for themselves and buy the awesome content and books. Yeah. So, what does identity mean from your spiritual perspective? Beyond the roles, the titles, the masks, the
Yeah.
badges I wear
Yeah. Yeah.
or we wear. What's that all mean?
What does identity mean? Yeah. I
Yeah.
love this question. I feel that it is so appropriate because you know why, sir? I'll tell you, Mr. Whitney, my new friend. I hope we can be friends, of course, after this. I
Yeah.
think it'd be appropriate, but not to put it on the air. Always be friends. But um so why is this question so appropriate? This question is so appropriate because we can't avoid identity. We have a body, we have a recognition, eventually, in that kind of way when the baby says, "Oh, I'm not everything. I'm moving these things, right? The hands, and you recognize it, right? So that's identity. And that's not religious, not political, right? We're just a tiny little baby. So that's the beginning of that. So it's kind of an objective, universal thing, so that's why my preface of that question. But yeah, so what is identity? And, what is it about? Well, basically now we have that in our mind, right? The proper perspective, right? That's what that is, the proper perspective. It's just a natural occasion of life that we have to have identity. So it's nobody's fault, right? It's not something that we can do about. It's just life. And in that kind of way, that might provide some perspective, some relief to some people, in the sense that, at least in America, right, we have maybe a little bit of an issue in context of identity. And how do you know there's an issue? Why would there be relief, right, in that? Because now I'm saying the truth, and if it's providing relief, that means there is some kind of issues that we can have, emotionally, mentally, psychologically, that is an imbalance, meaning that our perspective is a little bit out of balance based in identity. So in that kind of way, identity is something that is germane to all life in that kind of way, and it's inherently good, needed, right, for creation, for expansion, for evolution. So identity in that way, I would go further along that path that I'm sharing with you with my words of it's a natural thing. And why is that providing relief, or why is that one healing? That sentence is because we can be in this place of forcing, right? It's kind of like I'm forcing something to be different, right? Around identity. So if we're hearing that sentence, well, it's a natural thing, right?
Natural.
And all we're after, what are we really after? Even the people that are, we could say extreme personalities, goth, transgender, these different kind of identity labels that are going on, and such like this. What are they after? If you can get a clear sentence out of them, preferably as a group, which we deserve to be, obviously, in groups and such, what you might get is something like, my truth, right? My truth, my expression, my life. which is all good stuff, about identity. So how do you get to that? So staying in the lane of nature, right? Staying in the lane of nature, right? Understanding that it's okay to have that trust, that faith, rather than anything else, right? Rather than fear, rather than cowardice, rather than dishonor, to use a little comparison in my words. Um, and I understand, that life is tough, and that we can end the sentence there for people that have had difficult lives. And identity in that way is literally a survival mechanism for people that have had tough lives. It's literally, that's what it is. So I understand that too, right? And
There's a universal fear of identity, and it goes like this: the fear of I don't belong, and that's where these movements come up of LGBTQ, goths, Satanists, if you want to throw them into, and all the subgenres that follow. They come from that universal fear of I don't belong. They've seen or they've experienced trauma, and also generalization alert here, an experience that has traumatized them from following the line. So they've gone and found solidarity or community within another movement, such as these other movements, to take on that identity and enhance that fear of I don't belong. When really, bring back to nature, what would nature want?
yeah, yeah, there's actually, I'll mention another little something about myself. I have a degree in music and vocal performance, and I have a song. Um, it's actually kind of like a hard rock, cool drums, acoustic guitar, instrumental thing on SoundCloud on my website. Easy to get to. You don't have to remember anything. It's all just on the website, and it's called Nature's Universal Language, which is interesting that that this is kind of what we're talking about in this kind of way. But definitely, of course, um in context of the next book I'm doing, The Reform of the Education System, which is obviously very serious, and to me it's an unavoidable thing that has to kind of snowball and happen, um that I'm so elated to be part of, certainly, and open to anything at all from anybody at any angle, any place in the world in context of that. um and So the reason I brought that one up, I came up with my own 4 base courses for schooling, and something called the Opportunities for Growth. So in that kind of way, that's being presented in the book. And part of that 20 or so page presentation out of the 370-page book is basic human needs. So I did a list of basic human needs, and then I go, how does my school technically that I came up with, that a lot of people I hope would resonate with, in all seriousness, of course, how does it meet what we already know? So here's a list of what we already know about ourselves. We're human beings, and we have all of these needs, and how does it meet them? And belonging, is something that, these needs, by definition, we can't take them out of
Mm,
ourselves. They
mm,
can't go anywhere. We can change our clothing, we can change our hair, we can paint our nails, we can exercise. I would say we can, unfortunately, body modificate, meaning add our cheeks, and try and change our, not to be too obscene, but modify our gender physically, and change our testosterone and estrogen levels, and our reproductive organs and such. So in that kind of way, the thing is, instead of that surgery, I would say, not to comment on self-expression, of course, and makeup and clothing and all this other stuff, but the needs are we able to take our attention and bring it back to that? Just practically speaking, well, the needs aren't going anywhere. My friend might be leaving, I can't control them. Why don't we bring our attention back to just, me at home, where Dr. Joe's hand is, right on my chest, pat pat. And that's a wonderful exercise. It would even say, as a spiritual guide professionally, that's a spiritual exercise, that I actually do. It's called Bringing the Light of Awareness into Yourself. And it's basically this, attention coming back to your center, through your free will alone. My job is to encourage that and to facilitate it. No one can ever do that for you ever. Um, and yeah, so there's some words on that wonderful,
Mm,
serious, important, perspective you brought up, Mr. Whitney.
mm, mm. On identity, how does your spiritual work or yeah, your teachings, how do they align or conflict with modern leadership paradigms?
Ooh, you said modern leadership paradigms?
Yeah,
Is that
yeah,
the word you used?
modernity. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Um, well, I would say, yeah, I appreciate that question. Yeah, I would say, well, the forefront of my work, collectively speaking, right, meaning our whole species, excuse me, would be the reform of the education system. You know, that's what I see as the whole kind of my face, I guess, my leading edge, in context of what would be needed, I guess, you know and in that way I would hope nothing competes with that, right? And that the leaders would say, hey, if we don't have a book on it, or we're not going to go to the meetings, hey, thanks for Dr. Joe, because he's taking care of that and we're busy with this stuff over here. So that's kind of my perspective on that, in context of world leadership, in the sense that, if that makes sense. But of course, I am not afraid of confronting, fill in the blank, the president, in that kind of way. I'm not afraid of having a conversation, with the president in a real way, that would have to do with global affairs, and this kind of special agenda, meaning our collective. Um, I'm not, so it's that, I guess, is my kind of wholesome answer on that I know myself. I see clearly enough, and I have the abilities and skills that, in the public eye and in people's personal, intimate lives, like with books and videos, um, is deserved, is helpful, is out there, and I'm not afraid of staying in myself and competing, so to speak, when necessary. But I also am not an idiot, and I also know how to be respectful, to leaders that have already clearly been established, in this world, perhaps from an early age. I'm 35. I've already got some gray hairs, and I'd love to have, people like that be exposed to my stuff and hear the absolute truth of what they think about me, in that kind of way. And so there you go.
Mm. Brings me to the next point. How does ego interfere with spiritual presence? And how do you guide people to realign?
How does ego? What was the second half? How
Interfere
does ego?
how does ego interfere with spiritual presence? And how do you guide people to realign? Because we're on the topic of ego at the moment. I can feel
Yeah,
the energy.
yeah.
I'll just drop in for the audience. So Carl Jung is an amazing teacher on the ego and soul. When we're in a place of ego, projection, drift, and compromise happens. Yeah. When we're in a place of soul, we're in their highest purpose. That Zen, that proto-conscious moment, that highest purpose. We go to the highest point, what we absolutely stand for. That's soul.
How exciting. Oh my God, how lovely. Yeah. So let me make sure I stay focused and not split my attention here. So, to answer the first part of the question, ego, in context of, you said, in context of spiritual, uh
Presence.
pr- uh presence, you said, progress.
Yeah.
So
Presence.
the reality of spirit, how does ego fit into that? Right? Yeah. So, in this kind of way, my answer to this is, well, if we already know, right, now that we just heard Dr. Joe say this, the reality of spirit. So that means we can't unhear this, we can't unknow this, right? The reality of spirit. So in this way, that is my simple but, true answer is, well, it's your attention, it's your life, and you just heard that sentence, right? The reality of spirit. So in that kind of way, ego, I mean, in that kind of way, isn't something that is part of that, in that kind of way. And it's okay for us to have a, lifelong process of education and growth that we can say, I still do have, an ego, which doesn't mean anything technically. But my actual advice to you on this and my answer is that first sentence, the reality of spirit. It's not the reality of anything else. It's the reality of spirit, right? And I know, so you're hearing that, and in that kind of way, and uh yeah, I'm pretty satisfied with that answer. You might expect a long one on that.
Mm,
Kind of has That's kind of the answer for me on that.
that's cool. That's cool. I hear you. I see you. I appreciate it. Um, we use practices like meditation, toning, and chanting. Yeah. In your view, how do those practices help recalibrate a person's identity at an energetic level?
Oh, yeah. So basically, there are certain tools that we have available to us, that I like to call them prosperity tools, I guess is kind of a cool name. I recently had an article that I wrote. I don't know if it actually got taken into this small little magazine locally here. But basically it would have, it'd be appropriate, to for you to read if you wanted to in context of this right now. But basically, that we have these tools that are available to us that are completely just exercises. They're a neutral kind of option that we have. Kind of like, where do you want to drive your car in your hometown? Kind of neutral choice, kind of thing. And that's really the whole thing of what they are. And I say that because how many people have lost their chance in this lifetime to practice these physical, spiritual, potentially miraculous exercises like Tai Chi Qigong, the softest martial art, Chinese martial art, or yoga asana, or meditation. To name three of those, perhaps I would say the most kind of predominant three in that way. How many people have lost their shot because of the lack of the truth being clear of what I just shared? Meaning, it's
Mm.
a neutral option. It's your free will, it's your life, and it's a neutral option. So, we get all of these different things can kind of get stuck on it, of religion and how, any of these different things, that instead of driving our car straight, it's like someone trying to pull at the wheel and swerving, right? So that's a very serious and ultimately serious thing, because these are prosperous things, and we deserve to be happy and not suffer needlessly. And we have a body, right? As I mentioned earlier, identity is a thing that, is kind of natural. It happens, as we grow and we start to identify with our corporeal system. So Tai Chi Qigong is the same exact logic that, oh, I have a body. And, well, how do I honor this? I might as well honor this, right? And then Tai Chi Qigong. Now you've
Mm.
got the whole thing. That's really the whole thing for Tai Chi Qigong. So where's religion in that? It's nowhere. Where's religion actually? Religion actually is only in your heart alone. Even if you're in front of Jesus Christ, if you had the thought, the religion is now somehow not in my heart, that's incorrect.
Yeah.
The experience of religion, the personal religious experiences, is always only yours, your heart. But yeah, so anyways, in that kind of way, it's just like your healing process. It's your personal experience of life, So these experiences with Tai Chi Qigong, yoga asana, meditation are all subjective forever, meaning that they're only yours and no one else is ever going to have them. It's impossible for them to be had by anybody else. So in that way, I hope that brings you towards this stuff.
Mm. It
Right? I
does.
hope
It
it
certainly
helps you
does.
feel invited, you know,
It
um
certainly does. Yeah. Yeah. Spiritual work is certainly internal and subtle. Yeah. There's no religious experience. In my view of the world, religion to me is all about conformity and control and obedience. Jesus and all the spiritual leaders that I've studied as great models and mentors are definitely not about control or obedience to the masses. They're about
Yeah.
freeing the spiritual, experiencing spiritual freedom. Yeah, that's what I've observed through my studies, Jesus included, and I love Jesus. I respect him as a powerful man, powerful model, and a powerful mentor to the masses. And I believe his vision to change humanity or to lead humanity was impeccable for leadership. Um, how do you help someone embody the spiritual identity so it shows in their behavior, presence, and leadership ultimately?
How do you help somebody identify
How do you
their
help someone's embody
embody?
spiritual identity so it shows in their behavior, presence, and leadership?
So in this way, you'll notice that with, like I said out earlier, truth is it's one thing,
Mm.
and like all of the teachers throughout time and space were all attached to it, right? So teaching, education, truth, right? All of this is clear. So carrying on in this kind of way that Dr. Joe has been presenting himself, hopefully loud and clear, to our audience tonight, is basically
Certainly
that
have
you'll
been.
hear a continuity in this next answer, which is a very serious answer, right? A very real life answer. That the embodiment, all of this, my answer is that it's ultimately personal, right? So that in this kind of way, your behavior is an inevitable aspect of life, right? Your behavior, how you act when going through the drive-through, all the way up to how you act in front of your kids, how you act when there's an emergency situation, how you act when you're alone, uh all these different kind of things, how you act in therapy, in this kind of way. And spiritual embodiment, how does that help? Well, everything that I just shared about these different examples are true, meaning these different situations of behavior, right, in someone's personal life. Spirit, it would help you to calm you down and make you feel excited about waking up in the morning in that life where that's real every single day, right? That my behavior is with me all the time. What is with me all the time? Not this sweater. I love this sweater. I didn't even spill anything on this sweater. It's not going to be with me next week, most likely at the same time that the day on Monday. So what's still with me? Behavior is still with me, right? So in this way, instead of giving into any form of panic, spirit would help you. So when you embody spirit, right, the reality of spirit, which as we answered the question earlier, ego, in that way, the answer to ego and the path of egolessness is just knowing the reality of spirit, right? That's my answer to ego loss. So
Mm-hmm.
in this way, the embodiment of spirit, this is how that would help you, is because it would help you to reduce the chance of you having anxiety, panic, hectic energy. How is that true? Because spirit in that way is an all-encompassing, all-enveloping thing that is never in denial of anything, so to speak, in denial of the truth, to be specific. So this behavior, that whether no matter where you are in your life, if you're struggling with certain behavior patterns or you're golden, the truth of the reality of spirit is still there, and it can provide you a comfort in this reality, right, of life. So that's my big answer.
Mm.
Yeah,
Beautiful, beautiful.
thank you.
So, what somatic energetic practices such as breath, posture, energy channels do you teach to anchor spiritual alignment in daily life? You did mention Tai Chi, the ancient Chinese martial arts, earlier.
Yeah, Tai Chi Qigong is a lovely thing to talk about.
Mm.
I don't claim to be an expert, sir, at all in Tai Chi Qigong, but I do have a video on my website called "The Basics of Tai Chi Qigong," where I do this one. I call it the Swan's Wings. Is the first movement, but basically, it's all about finding. I would say a nice phrase is fitting in with life. So that technically, there's a word for that that called the Tao, Tao. It's Chinese, and it means the way of things already. Okay, the way of things already. So meaning that, oh, okay, so I don't have to make it something. No, you don't. the way of things already. Oh, okay. So like before I was here, before I was born, right? Yeah, exactly that. So it's going to be around after I die, though. Yeah, it is. So it's the Tao. So in that kind of way, fitting in is really all that that's about. But you're fitting in with the only the Tao, right? It's
Mm.
nothing else that you'd be fitting in with. And Tai Chi Qigong helps you to fit in with that, provides you harmony, and basically our only kind of prerequisite to have that happen is our body. That we have this body, and like I said earlier about it, honoring your body. And then basically it's just like anything else, any other skill. You just start, check out my video, check out somebody else. Like I said, I'm not an expert, but you might feel an attraction to me, and you might want to just try it out. It's just a video, it's on the site, joevertino.org. It'll be in the link. joevertino.org is all it is. Simple to remember. But yeah, did that answer that question? I'm not
It
sure.
certainly did. So what's your expertise? What's your movement? Your
My, I would have
spiritual
to say,
energetic practice?
ultimately, my expertise, I kind of want to say liberation would be the word I'd use, just generally. I was going to say healing, but healing succumbs to the word liberation.
Mhm. And do
There's
you
a
have a
great quote
practice around
by,
that? What's your practice?
yeah,
If
yeah,
you
yeah,
were to put that into a practice such as breath work, chanting, sound bowls, what's your expertise to gain that liberation?
yeah. Wonderfully relevant question, sir. Thank you for asking that. Yeah, I would say liberation. The first thing is, well, no, my personal practice. Yeah. Well, no, still recognizing it, recognizing that it's real, I think is the first thing. Uh, like, being a child and being observant and being content with just being observant, and being alive, in that kind of way, is a natural kind of innocent recognition of that, uh and that liberation. Well, how do we know liberation is real also? Well, there's suffering. We could say there's needless suffering that could be avoided in that way. And liberation, well, by definition, is proven real because it's possible for that to not be happening. So technically that's what liberation is, which might make you think of Lord Buddha, the ascended master, Lord Buddha Siddhartha Gautama. uh Jesus Christ, Yeshua, is also an ascended master. Big words, right? The ascended masters are the great help of humanity. I would say the most important group, maybe ever. And there are all these different figures throughout a history, ranging from different lands, religions, any kind of different place in the culture or anything like that. But yeah, Lord Buddha. Why did I mention him? The story historically of Lord Buddha Siddhartha Gautama is actually kind of where we're at right now in the conversation. Liberation, for everybody, right? And for myself. But yeah, so practice wise, I didn't answer that. So practice wise, I actually want to say Reiki, in that way, the tradition of Reiki. There's something that is for everybody, which Reiki is, but specifically, listen up to this, please. There's something called the 5 Reiki principles. So the 5 Reiki principles are something that is for everybody, no matter what. And once again, it's not that thing of, get your hands off my steering wheel, of the religion kind of thing, when it's really just not about you. It's about me and my experience, right? The same thing with these 5 Reiki principles. It's just principles for us, as an individual to practice, and that's it. And it doesn't have to be involving anybody else outside of maybe going to the store and getting a book on it, watching this video and hearing about it. That's really it. So these 5 Reiki principles are the practice in that way, no matter what, to achieve liberation for anybody. I'll tell you them real quick. Just for today, I will not worry is the first one. Just for today, I will not be angry is number 2. Just for today, I will do my work honestly is number 3. Just for today, I'll be grateful is number 4. Just for today, I'll be kind to all living beings is number 5. So these are the 5 principles for life that when you wake up in the morning, that you can have no matter what, for yourself. And literally you can do it, in a span of maybe a minute, or it can take you maybe 5 minutes, right? And you're very reverent, you're meditative throughout this experience of these 5 Reiki principles. I had my house a couple years back. I called it my longhouse out in Tonawanda here in Native American territory. Iroquois, I believe, is the right word, territorially speaking, for Native Americans, and that is their term, longhouse. And I had my rectangle that was shaped in a longhouse, and no one else was in it. And I would go there and sleep in it and cook my salmon, and then go or whatever. And that's actually where I started writing on the reform of the education system. But I would have a shrine there, and I would wake up in the morning, have my Lord Buddha statue, Mother Mary, Lord Ganesha, and a pretty velvet, kind of tablecloth, and I would, do the 5 Reiki principles. And all it takes is you being there for a little bit, and you could say them out loud, do a little pause in between each one, and then at the end, kind of a little pause again, and allow yourself to be reverent. Allow yourself to be reverent, for life. And that's the 5 Reiki principles. So that's my sincere, honest, 100% true universal answer to that very, very serious question, Mr. Whitney.
Thank you.
A long-winded one, but needed.
And
Yes.
those 5 Reiki principles practiced daily can help for the long term build our legacy. Yeah. So how would you
Absolutely it does. Yes.
how would you advise someone who wants to leave behind more than material success? So the cash, the toys, the cars, the houses, and build a legacy of spiritual influence, not just business metrics.
So how do you, it sounds like to me kind of like a jumpstart question. How do you get someone getting their motor revved a little bit? Yeah, in the right direction. There's a word for that. That's called alignment. So to go further with that very commonly known analogy of vehicles, cars, beep, beep, what have you. Alignment, what's the one necessary thing that's needed for any car to go is the wheels have to be in alignment, or we won't be moving, right? Physically speaking, ask a physicist and they'll immediately say, yes, Dr. Joe's right. And it's my expertise. He's right. So in this way, in this analogy, I hope that translates. Of course, but seriously, I take you seriously. I take your well-being seriously. And all of this stuff is for you, no matter what. And how do I know that's true? Because I'm the one saying it. All of this is for you, for your benefit. So here we go. So alignment, getting into alignment. So if we know, I would say start with this. My favorite guided meditation to do is on hope, HOPE. Okay, so the first thing is, if you have an opportunity, well, go to my site and check out the guided meditation page, but allow yourself to get into the vibration of hope. How do you do that? Recognize right now in this video, you're hearing somebody, and am I that person? It's okay. Let yourself give into it, that you're feeling hope because of Dr. Joe and Mr. Whitney here. So allow that. So you're not doing anything right now. You're just being alive and allowing hope to be real, be true, right? So, and it's okay for us to give into that. Oh, I remember this thing my mom told me years and back that in time that, I'm thinking of, that was very hopeful. That's real. That's true. So we're not starting anything yet. We're not planning anything, any actions yet. We're putting ourselves psychologically, spiritually, mentally, emotionally. It's really all of our being, except for we're not moving. We're not trying to change anything yet, is being put into a specific place called hope. Now, hope is going to be your starting point. I think of like Olympic swimming, a very serious discipline. By the way, I do have a guided meditation on discipline, among other ones, with the archangels, actually. Archangel Azrael, the archangel of mental stability and death. But discipline is the topic for that guided meditation that I have certainly on my YouTube, connected through my site, joevertino.org, which is all for you, like I said. But to carry on with this very important answer, the push-off place, hope is like the push-off place. In Olympic swimming, how do they continue doing the laps? They have to spin around, and their feet have to hit the wall, that they were going towards, swimming towards, and they have to push off. So your push off place is that in the
Mm.
morning, right? So in that way, what is it? Well, it's so simple. We can remember this. It's just hope. So letting yourself come back to start planting your feet in that, meaning hope, which might seem a little poetic, but that's okay. You don't have to make it into anything but what you are right now, right? So being in that place of hope, of investing in what I'm saying, and then from there, if something comes up for you, go with it. It's called your highest excitement. So that's basically my answer to that,
Mhm.
about alignment and your legacy, and that you're part of this species. You're not alone, in
Mm.
the dark. You're not out on Pluto by yourself. You're in this, and of course, you might feel alone right now. And in that way, who am I to say anything to that? That's your personal experience. And as someone who's struggled with life, I am in no way going to discount or deny anything of my own personal experience and difficulties in life. I would go the opposite way, and opening and sharing and being expressive, which is the point of like talk therapy, being a master healer. Of course I support that, but in that way, hope. So hope is putting you into the proper perspective, right? In order to take action, it makes a lot more sense, instead of saying, I'm just going to aimlessly walk around the earth, right? Allow yourself to stop first and be practicing a little bit, I guess you could say discipline wise, of being hopeful without taking any steps. And that's your feet, right? That's your footing, right? Your push off place. So then, that being your push off place, you're enabling yourself for success no matter what. No matter what, you chose to be aiming yourself in the correct way. And because we can't do anything about other people's behavior. So if they choose to betray you, guess what? It's not your fault. No matter what,
Yeah.
forever.
Yeah.
How do we know that? It's logic. We just went through the whole thing together. We went through the whole thing
Exactly.
together right now. So you know that it's completely. So that's the power of, well, you could say the power of love. Like my title of my first book, My Own Religion, The Power of Love. How is that the power of love? Well, why not go with the quote in the book? Jimi Hendrix said, when the power of love becomes more than the love of power, we will know peace. Right? When the power of love becomes higher up or more than the love of power, we will know peace. Right? So hopefully you get that. And that's about us. That's about everybody. In that sense that right now we could say, you making the choice to listen to me, to allow yourself to participate in life in a little bit more of a better for you, seemingly selfish, hopeful way, is good, is great. So I'll stop there. But anyways, I love
That's
giving
all
that.
right.
It makes me
Very
happy.
interesting. Very interesting. What
Wow.
energy do you believe leaders should imprint as legacy?
I mean, in that way, I'll speak about myself, says Mr. Leo. Being a master healer, I take the tradition of Reiki and healing very seriously. And I'm completely autonomous in it, but I didn't get there on my own. There's other people that I was dependent on to take the courses, to in that kind of way, that it's a legacy, a tradition in that way. But speaking for myself, I can't ever speak for other people, in the sense that like who am I to say, like, I don't know the future. I don't know what you're capable of. Maybe you don't know what you're capable of. But my answer is that perspective, right? That rational perspective. Um, and I guess what I do know, for no matter what, about myself, when I'm dead and gone, that I will have been a respectful individual, and that to me is the most important thing. Uh, Respect. So yeah, that's my answer, I guess, for myself. Legacy of respect, and
Mm.
that respect. This is something I'll share. Respect is a two-sided thing. It's a two-sided coin. Sometimes we hear the word respect, or a lot of the times we hear the word respect, and our mind goes to the outside. It goes to the outside, other people, respect. And it goes like this, right? Towards other people outside. There's an inverse side, which is self-respect. Self-respect, right? So we have respect this direction, right? And then the other side of respect is us, is self-respect. So that's my answer on that one.
Very interesting. Very interesting.
Yes.
Joe, brother, this has been deep tonight or today. Before we go, if someone listening wants to step more into spiritual identity and leadership, what's one practice you'd have them start tonight?
The practice, I would say, is my advice that I just gave a couple 2 answers back about putting yourself into the place of hope. Number 1, let yourself, if you want, go back in the video and listen to it again, but let it lead you, let it guide you. When I was in high school, I had a wonderful genius musical influence who people will know him if if they were seeing this something like this. But there was a song that he was very impressionable. This song that stuck with me was about this same point. And it would go, lead me, guide me along the way. For if you lead me, I cannot stray. In that kind of way. And that, life is serious and we're still here, but yet it's time to sing. It's time to open our eyes. It's time in that way. And all of that is hope. All of that is hope. And there's nothing wrong with you inherently. There's nothing wrong with wanting to be led. That's my job. That's why Mr. Whitney's on here. That's why we have this show. And all this is for you. And there's nothing wrong with letting yourself completely just kind of give into it. Oh my God. Yay. There's a person here and they're leading me and I'm able to trust them and I'm able to just stare down my life and start over, so to speak. But yeah, you matter. You deserve to be happy and not suffer needlessly. And
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Hope is all we have. So, Joe, where can they find you? Where can viewers find you?
Yeah, I'm just starting
more
out right now.
information?
To be honest, thank God for the internet. I have my beautiful website, joevertino.org. That's JOE, V as in victory, ERTINO.org. joevertino.org. And that is my beautiful, fulfilling, helpful, healing, evolutionary website. It really is, I'm doing my best. I'm pulling it off that it has kind of all of my stuff in it. Music, books, my work, meaning my contact info. If someone wanted to bring me on a Zoom, if they wanted to fly me out to do an event, if they want to hire me for a one-on-one Reiki session, spiritual guidance, career alignment, artistic alignment, relationship alignment, all of that is personal confidential work. A podcast, you want to do a podcast, collaboration, anything. All of it's on the site in that way. Don't hesitate. If you want to send a message, say hi, and I'll start talking to you, or you have some serious, hey, I'm in Sweden and I'm in a school and I want to talk to you about education system reform. Anything at all. Don't hesitate, day or night. I am here for you. So that
Very
would
cool.
just right on the site.
There's certainly some certain creative resources on that website. There's more value that you can poke a stick at on that website. I've checked it out myself, had a read. Yeah, it's amazing. Certainly well worth the check out. This conversation shows there's no split between spirit and identity. True power is where you align and they align. If this resonated with you, share with someone who's ready, and I mean ready, to lead from the soul, from heart, and not just from performance. We've got enough clowns out there. We need those to lead from the soul. Let's focus on aligning our spirit and soul together. Let's forge an identity through spirit. You can call that whatever you want, whatever that means to you. And let's ascend to the next evolution of next level leadership and take others with us. Thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Joe. It's been a pleasure having you on the Legacy Forge podcast. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, subscribe, like and subscribe on all platforms, Spotify and Apple. Check out YouTube for the video. And we shall see you again on the next episode on the Legacy Forge.
Angel blessings.
Bye for
Thank you
now.
so much, Mr. Whitney. And thank you, everybody. Angel blessings. Bye.
Thank you. Bye for now.